Welcome to Top 10, the home of rapid-fire rankings. From fascinating facts to the freshest trends, we unveil the best of the best, all in a bite-sized package. Immerse yourself in a world where less is more, and seconds count. Stay curious, stay engaged, and remember, life is always surprising when you're counting down with Top 10.
Welcome to our countdown of the top 10 wild and unknown facts about martial law. Buckle up because this is serious stuff. We're talking about a seismic shift in how a country functions, and not always for the better. Over the next few minutes, we're going to peel back the layers of this often misunderstood topic, exploring its historical roots and its impact on everything from the price of bread to your ability to say bread in public. So let's rewind the clock a bit, shall we? The term martial law might sound like something out of a bad historical reenactment, but its roots actually stretch back further than you might think. We're talking ancient Rome here, folks. Back when togas were in fashion and emperors were just as likely to be assassinated by their best friend as they were to die of old age. Back then, during times of crisis, they'd whip out this little thing called Senatus Consultum Ultimum, which, despite sounding like a Harry Potter spell, basically gave the Roman Senate the power to suspend all laws and appoint a dictator. Yes, you heard that right. A dictator with absolute power. Throughout history, various cultures and civilizations have dabbled in their own versions of martial law. In the 20th and 21st centuries alone, we've seen martial law declared in response to everything from natural disasters and political upheavals to, well, let's just say some less than convincing reasons. Okay, let's talk about what martial law actually means for the average person, because, let's be honest, when the legal system goes out the window, it's usually the little guy who takes the hardest fall. First and foremost, say goodbye to those cherished civil liberties you've been taking for granted. Freedom of speech, gone. Freedom of assembly, see you later. Under martial law, the military often steps in to maintain order, which sounds all well and good, until you realize they're not exactly known for their nuanced approach to conflict resolution. Curfews can be imposed, public gatherings banned, and even criticizing the government can land you in hot water, or worse. From crackdowns on peaceful protests to the silencing of dissenting voices, the curtailing of civil liberties under martial law has a long and troubling history. Let's talk about the economy, baby, because nothing says booming economic powerhouse like a nice, healthy dose of martial law, right? Wrong. In fact, imposing martial law is a bit like hitting the giant flashing red panic button on your country's economy. Investors? They're running for the hills faster than you can say capital flight. Businesses? Shutting down left, right, and center because who needs customers when you've got tanks rolling down the street? The simple truth is that martial law creates an atmosphere of uncertainty and instability. And that's not exactly a recipe for economic growth. Supply chains are disrupted, businesses struggle to operate, and everyday citizens face shortages of essential goods and skyrocketing prices. The economic fallout from martial law can be devastating, leading to job losses, inflation, and a general decline in living standards. Chapter 4. Living under martial law. Fun for the whole family. It's not. Living under martial law isn't just about navigating a few inconveniences, like having to show your papers every 5 feet, or getting used to the soothing sounds of military marches blasting through the streets at all hours. It's about the psychological toll it takes on individuals and communities. Imagine waking up every day wondering if this is the day the soldiers show up at your door. Imagine the constant fear, the suspicion, the erosion of trust in your neighbors and your government. Children grow up under the shadow of military presence, their childhoods irrevocably altered by the experience. The psychological scars of living under martial law can last a lifetime, long after the tanks have rolled away and the curfews have been lifted. Chapter 5. The military, from protecting to policing, and everything in between. Under normal circumstances, the military is tasked with defending a nation from external threats, protecting its citizens from harm. But under martial law, their role undergoes a fundamental shift. Suddenly, they're no longer just soldiers. They're the police, the judge, the jury, and sometimes even the executioner. They're given extraordinary powers, often with little to no oversight or accountability. Now, I'm not saying that every soldier under martial law is going to turn into a power-hungry tyrant, but the fact remains that the potential for abuse is enormous. When you give a group of people unchecked authority over others, things can go very wrong, very quickly. Chapter 6. The world is watching. International response to martial law. So, a country declares martial law. What happens next? Well, the international community, like a nosy neighbor peering through the curtains, tends to take notice. And depending on the circumstances, their reaction can range from a disapproving headshake to full-blown sanctions and condemnation. This can have serious diplomatic consequences. Trade agreements might get put on hold, foreign aid could dry up, and the country might even find itself on the receiving end of international sanctions. Think of it like being put in a global timeout, except instead of missing out on playtime, you're missing out on trade opportunities and international cooperation. But one thing's for sure, declaring martial law is rarely a good look on the world stage. Chapter 7. Martial Law. It's not just a history book footnote. Now you might be thinking, John, this is all very fascinating and terrifying, but surely martial law is just a relic of the past, right? I mean, we're living in the 21st century, the age of smartphones and self-driving cars. While it's true that outright declarations of martial law have become less common in recent decades, it's not exactly been sent out to pasture with the dodo bird. In fact, it's popped up in some pretty unexpected places and in response to some rather questionable circumstances. Remember that earthquake in insert country? The one that, sadly, caused a lot of destruction? Well, guess what? The government used it as an excuse to declare martial law, citing the need to maintain order and prevent looting. The point is, martial law isn't just some dusty old concept confined to history books. It's a very real tool that governments can and do use in the 21st century, often with dubious justification. Okay, let's say the crisis has passed, the dust has settled, and martial law is lifted. Phew, back to normal, right? Not so fast. The thing about martial law is that it's not like a light switch you can just flick on and off without any lasting effects. It leaves a mark, a stain on the fabric of a nation that can linger for years, even decades. For starters, it normalizes the exceptional. It gets people used to the idea of soldiers patrolling the streets, of basic rights being suspended, of the government having unchecked power. And once those lines have been blurred, it becomes much easier to cross them again in the future, even when there isn't a genuine crisis. Then there's the impact on political institutions. Martial law often weakens democratic processes, undermines the rule of law, and creates a climate of fear and self-censorship. This can make it incredibly difficult to rebuild trust in government and establish a functioning democracy once martial law is lifted. Now let's dive into a specific case study that illustrates the complexities and far-reaching consequences of martial law: South Korea. Back in the 1980s, South Korea was a country grappling with political turmoil, student protests, and a deeply entrenched military dictatorship. In 1980, following the assassination of President Park Chung-hee, the military, led by General Chun Doo-hwan, seized power in a coup d'état and declared martial law. What followed was a brutal crackdown on dissent. Protests were violently suppressed, thousands were arrested and tortured, and freedom of speech was effectively silenced. The Gwangju Uprising, a pivotal moment in South Korea's history, saw hundreds of civilians killed by the military during a peaceful demonstration against martial law. South Korea's experience with martial law had global implications, influencing international perceptions of the country and shaping its relationship with the United States, its key ally. Okay, let's bring this home. You might be sitting there thinking, John, this is all very well and good, but I live in insert country. We're a democracy. We have laws. Martial law could never happen here. And to that, I say, famous last words. The truth is, martial law can happen anywhere, at any time, under the right, or should I say wrong, circumstances. It might start subtly, with increased military presence on the streets, or restrictions on certain civil liberties. Before you know it, you're living under a completely different set of rules, one where your rights are no longer guaranteed. Now, I'm not saying that you should all go out and buy a bunker and start stockpiling canned goods, although if you do have a spare bunker, let me know. But I am saying that it's important to be aware of the dangers of martial law, to understand how easily it can happen, and to be prepared to speak out against it if it ever rears its ugly head in your neck of the woods, because the price of freedom, as they say, is eternal vigilance. Thank you for watching our countdown of the top 10 unknown facts about martial law. We hope this video has given you a new perspective on how martial law can impact countries and citizens. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay vigilant. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful content.
Thanks for watching Top 10 Countdowns. Desire more? Glide your cursor to the subscribe button, give it a click. Don't forget that notification bell. It's your golden ticket to our world of riveting Top 10 Countdowns. See you soon in the next video.